How long does it take to rebuild credit? Really powerful question. How long does it take if I go through a hardship, or if I have a period in my life where, whatever, some things are going wrong, or I'm just irresponsible, got late payments, charge-offs, collections, judgments, whatever. How long does it take before I can get back on my feet with my credit and get back in the marketplace and start borrowing again, get access to credit, access to capital? How long does it take? Very nuanced answer. You are looking at a scenario now where it's very lender specific, not just broad industry, not like, oh, credit cards this, auto loans that. It's very, very, very specific to lenders because they all have various risk tolerance and business models. So you have some lenders who are going to be very open to bad credit for various reasons. They plan on charging you a lot of fees and interest. They may want some kind of collateral. They may be very income dependent or income driven in their underwriting, meaning that you have to have a strong income. They're going to be looking for some compensating factor. Any lender, I don't care how terrible they are, is going to need you to have some kind of compensating factor for some level of underwriting. I mean, even payday loans require you to have an income. So when you start talking about having functional credit again, when you've botched it for whatever reason, which most of us have been through at least at one phase in our lives, you're looking at a situation where it's going to depend on what you're applying for and at what level. Are you just trying to get your first credit card again? Or are you out here trying to get high-level business financing? Are you trying to get a mortgage? Are you trying to get a more expensive auto loan? What are you trying to accomplish? If you're looking to get your first credit card, you start on the smaller end of the spectrum. Like a first unsecured credit card, you can potentially get your first unsecured credit card within months of botching your credit. There are lenders out there whose business model is subprime credit. So at that point in time, they're willing to, find other compensating factors in your finances to approve you for your unsecured credit card. You can get your foot in the door with an unsecured credit card within months of having bad credit, of late payments, collections, charge-offs. Within months of that, you can get your hands on an unsecured credit card. If you're looking to get something like an auto loan, then that's going to be very particular as well. That's something you can also get within months of bad credit, depending on who you go to. We all know these ranky-dank dealerships that will basically finance you a car as long as you have an income. You have a pulse and an income, and they can auto draft out of an account, then they'll finance you, regardless of your credit. When you start talking about getting decent credit cards that require you to have get past reasonable barriers of underwriting, now you're talking about a situation where you may have to go a year to 2 years of developing reasonable credit from that point in time of the last negative item, while that negative item is aging. So it doesn't need to be something persistent. A charge off that hasn't been paid, a collection that hasn't been paid is going to haunt you. So if you can't get it removed, then you definitely want to consider paying it off or settling on it. Because at least at that point, underwriting, a lender, even software can look and see this is paid off, it's owed, whatever, or if you need to call in some kind of reconciliation, you can argue that something is owed and paid off or aged and paid off. Credit cards, auto loans that require reasonable underwriting, you're looking at a year to 2 years on the ground floor in most cases, unless you have really good income or some other compensating factor that these lenders are interested in to approve you. Credit-wise, sticking to that, you're looking at a year to 2 years. Mortgage is going to be very similar. The first, most recent 2 years or so of your credit is going to be very, very important in getting approved for a mortgage. Now, you have to keep in mind, if something is 6 years old, but still a negative item or several negative items that are that old and weighing your score down, that affects your credit score. So that means pricing on anything you borrow is going to be affected. So that technically means a negative item will haunt you the entire time it's on your report. It's getting approved though, like being able to at least get your foot in the door and get approved for something. You start to look at that 1 to 2 year barrier, 2 years being probably the sweet spot of starting to get to the point where you can get approved for a decent unsecured credit card from a decent lender, auto financing, personal loans, a mortgage. 2 years is about that threshold. Assuming you've built positive credit history in that 2 year window. We're not just talking about that negative item aging. We're also talking about building positive history on top of it. I just assisted a client where I was explaining to her that she just went through a financial hardship in the last few years and is finally getting a stable income and getting her business back together and wants to like build her finances back out and be able to borrow again. Great. I explained to her, do not follow the advice of just working on those negative items on your report and getting lost in that. Also, don't just chip away with like one new credit card or one personal loan. You need to go hard when you're rebuilding your credit. You need to go hard. Whatever excess capital you have, you need to build out as much positive payment history on top of that negative aging item as you possibly can. Credit scores are algorithms. Payment history is very much, I've talked about this several times, very much broken out on how much payment history you have. If you're 97% to 100%, you're in a reasonable range on payment history. You can only do that if you have enough payment history. So if you have 10 negative, or you have 10 late payments, in order for you to be over that 97% threshold, you probably need to have hundreds of other positive pay items to outweigh the 10% that was messed up. The 10 negative late payments that were messed up. So whatever that net works out to be, you might need, if it's basically if you have 10 negative payments, you have 100 payments total, you're at 90% payment history, positive payment history. That's no good. So in order to be at 97, you can do the math on that. You need to be hundreds of payments in to outweigh those 10 negative payments, right? Late payments. So basically, to answer this question and surmise this so this video doesn't get too much longer, you need to build positive payment history in abundance, as well as giving the other negative items that you may not be able to get removed or goodwill written off, whatever, time to age. Paid off and settled and aged. So look, 2 years is probably the earliest you can start to see progress in most cases. Every lender will be unique. Every scenario, your financial profile as a whole is unique. But just going across the spectrum, 2 years, positive payment history, an abundance of it, and that negative item aging, settled, paid, cleaned off, whatever. You need 2 years or more in order to start getting back in the game when it comes to credit. Comment down below and let me know if you've been through a hardship or going through a hardship and looking to rebuild your credit or have rebuilt your credit. How did you do it? What success did you have? How long did it take you? Comment down below. To all my pioneers, welcome back. To my new viewers, welcome in. Want to learn more about myself and the channel? Start in the description section and work your way to the about section on the channel. I want y'all to stay focused. Stay in motion. See y'all soon.
This is JP from Blueprint for Prosperity Network, a channel dedicated to helping you increase your net worth through relationship banking, maximizing your borrowing capacity, the proper use of life insurance, and the ownership of real estate. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm uploading content on a daily basis to help you customize your blueprint for prosperity.